we're going to switch to tech and healthcare. Healthcare is certainly top of everyone's mind since the pandemic, and we have three amazing guests who are going to give us some insight into that. First is Xuefeng, who is the co-founder, chairman, CEO of CanSino Biologics. And then we have Dr. Jiade Lu, who is vice president of Heyou International Health System. And Sam Radwan, who is partner and co-founder of eHands International. Please. Okay, you can take a seat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, China has a very unique system in many ways, especially, I think, when it comes to health. And maybe we can start it with Sam giving us a slight overview of what the macro situation is here versus maybe the countries and systems that we're aware of elsewhere.
Okay. So let's start with the good news. So there is a very strong correlation between GDP per capita and healthcare spend. The more GDP per capita goes up, the more your healthcare spending will go up, regardless of other factors. You know, the R-squared, the correlation is 0.9%, so very, very predictive. So if you take those numbers, and if you try to extrapolate that to 2050, it tells you basically, even with the current slowdown, that the healthcare spending in China could be equivalent to the entire GDP of Germany today. So there's tremendous room for growth in the market. So that's the good news. The other factor that you need to take into that is all that money that's going to be spent on healthcare, is it going to be money well spent, or is there going to be a lot of waste? Certainly in the US, we know about a lot of waste in terms of the healthcare spending that exists there. And before you start talking about AI or innovation or anything of the sort, you really, really have to get the basics right. And that's where China needs to start. There are three major factors that you need to take a look at in our view. First is setting the right KPIs and dealing with the issue of physicians focusing on providing care as opposed to anything else. So the recent anti-corruption campaign, I believe, is very, very necessary for something like this, but it has to be done in the right way. The good news is it has been solved before. If you look at Taiwan 30 years ago, they had the exact same problem, okay, the red envelope problem, and they solved it, right? They upgraded the payment of the physicians. They started this fund where if you get a red envelope, you donate it to that particular fund, and then it's evenly distributed amongst doctors, etc. So culturally, it can be solved, but it has to be done on a very massive scale. Then the other factor is the fact that you have 85% of care being provided by public hospitals. The KPIs of public hospitals are nowhere near the type of KPIs you need to stimulate or encourage innovation. You know, it's income, right, cost control, etc. Nothing of the type of KPIs that you need, like, you know, how many times a patient comes back to the hospital for the same type of ailment, you know, number of hospital stays, etc. Right? The second factor is commercial insurance. They have to step up. It continues to be a situation where there's a significant strain on social insurance. And commercial insurance have to start getting their act together in that particular area. So those are some of the factors that need to come into play in order for us to start talking about innovation or AI in this particular space, is you have to build a delivery. The last point I want to talk about is, as you know, the US basically built a hodgepodge of free market capitalism type of healthcare insurance. It does not work, right? The government has to play a very important role in terms of setting the rules of the game and avoiding the mistakes that were done in the US. The US is the only country where that's not the case. So we're not talking about just China. We're talking about UK, Germany, etc. If you're able to set the right rules and set them globally or universally in place, okay, that is another very important starting point in order to see to it that the dollars that you're spending on healthcare are well worth it.
For CanSino, you're a business operating in this healthcare industry.
Yeah.
In the past couple of years, what are some learnings from COVID that you take to make sure those dollars are going in the right places?
It's a great question. I would like to first of all point out that technology really helped us. And over the past 10 years, we see the advance of all kind of technology. We actually benefit from it, and that allow us to very quickly develop the vaccines that dealing with emergency situation, like the one we have, the COVID vaccines, so using our viral vector platform technology, so we can do the plug and play and quickly get the product out. And we also actually developed this inhaled vaccine to stimulate mucosal immune response that allow our body to have a triple protection, really to be very effectively, protect people from getting infected by the COVID. However, I agree with Sam and how the money is well spent and who is paying it and how effectively we can distribute the vaccine. And I think healthcare is not just about the business, especially in the public health. It's a government responsibility. It also need to be well, I guess the spend really to cover, the majority of the people, especially when we're dealing with, pandemic, this emergency response. Even for the regular, disease prevention, I think there is a lot of things we can do, not just technology, but also the policies and, all this, public-private partnerships.
And can you share a maybe more specific example? I know you're doing some work in Indonesia or maybe other markets where your company and the technology that you have lowers the barrier to entry to some of these products.
Well, our company is dedicated on the vaccine development. Our view is try to develop vaccines for whoever is needed, especially in the developing world. In fact, the pandemic situation allow us to see how poorly we're prepared in many developing countries in terms of vaccine technology, delivery systems, and so on and so forth. As a technology-driven, innovative-driven, company, we worked on many technologies. We have our platform technologies such like mRNA, which this year it was, win the Nobel Prize. I think it certainly deserve it. And we started working on those technology back 6 years ago. So when the pandemic happened, actually we have this technology available, actually develop our vaccine and went to the clinical trials. Of course, our viral vector technology has been more advanced, and currently we are, this is a platform technology can develop many vaccines. So we first work on the Ebola when the West Africa has this big outbreaks. I think 10,000 people died from it, and we had a quick response to use this technology, made the Ebola vaccine. Then it's COVID. But in reality, the first vaccine we worked on is a tuberculosis vaccine back to 10 years ago. That allowed us to develop not the whole prototype and the technologies. But now the world, we don't hear much of tuberculosis, but in reality, I was surprised to see the number from Indonesia, for example. Every year, there are almost like a million people infected, new cases for TB infection. And every year, there are over 100,000 people die from it. I think this is big problems. So we work closely with our Indonesia partner and using this technology, actually trying to develop a TB vaccine that really address the need, not just for Indonesia, actually for global. There's so many countries still need this vaccine, but almost like 100 years, we don't have a new vaccine to really preventing TB infection. Something we certainly can, do. We can work together with our partners.
And Dr. Liu, you probably sit at the middle of all of this. How do you think about expanding your business in this environment?
Well, first of all, I would not call it really a business because I'm partly in charge of a hospital, and the hospital is supposed to provide a good service to patients of all classes. We do provide in our hospital, the Heyou International Health System, premier service to patients with private insurance, but also we provide subsidized cases to our patients who really needs the basic health care. So within this environment of the developing China, health system is now definitely the focus of the development, and I totally with Sam that we need to think about the KPI, and we think about the technology, also the talents, and we need to really think about the money well spent, where we should spend the money. Well, what we're doing in my hospital right now is trying to really focus on how to spend the money in the right place that we can promote the health of our people. So high technology is something we definitely will work on. At least in part, we need to work on that because right now, at this time, we cannot only use what we did 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, just to take your pulse, to look at you, like the old Chinese medicine style, to diagnose disease, then treat the patients with herbs. At this time, we talk about high technology. We have CT, MRI, and all these very new technology that we will also see a lot of things that have not happened, but in the near future, maybe in 5 years, 10 years, that we realize that really have significant impact on the health and healthcare. Just a quick example. I was from Shanghai. I was in charge of the clinical part of the Shanghai Proton and Heavy Iron Center, which was a government-run hospital, and we use very high cutting-edge technology to treat cancer. And according to our performance, we have been quite successful because we have provided a lot of new technology, the use of technology to treat various of cancers. Now here we use more advanced technology in Foshan, in my new hospital. It's also a proton heavy iron center, but with newer technology. With this new technology, we will be able to cure a number of, I'm not saying only few, but a number of diseases that could not be cured or have long-term control, use the conventional technology. So this is an example of using high technology, the new technology, to provide healthcare, not only just to treat the disease, but we have a very substantial, significant improvement of patients' life. And eventually these patients, some of them would maybe die in 3 to 5 years. Now I've seen many of my patients treated by the new technology return to work like a normal person. So I consider this as like money well spent in this kind of technology. But at the same time, in this environment, another very important factor to be successful in our service, I wouldn't call business again, in our service, is the talents of these doctors. You have the very good technology. A lot of these technology were imported. Now China also is developing their own medical technology, which is very good to see. But at the same time, you need to have talents to use this technology correctly. So if we have a very good technology, but we don't have good people to use it, eventually it's like a weapon, very illy used. You may kill people, you may not help people, you may kill people. So that's very important. So in this environment, one is technology, one is talents, and I will echo what Sam just said. These combination will be money well spent in this environment, and this is what I'm trying to do in Foshan, in the new hospital, and to try to build a new care model here, because our hospital is a so-called private, but actually it's a not-for-profit hospital, and this is something not very common, because we usually think private hospital is more for-profit, and the public hospitals are not-for-profit. But actually, we're trying to see if we can build a not-for-profit hospital, because our support was from a very gigantic kind of donation type of input into the hospital. So we would like to see if a new healthcare model can be built in this environment, which will not only cover the basic needs, but also using high technology. It's more something like bring the future medicines in today. So this is what we'll try to do, and hopefully we can really be successful in this environment.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with talent and also some of the equipment. I mean, when I'm trying to understand what the issues are with China's healthcare system, people say that the doctors are not where they need to be. There's also this issue of the equipment that's available for hospitals in China. I'm wondering, Sam, there's so many issues to tackle. What's one thing that you see action as being very easy to happen in the next couple months in China's healthcare system?
Well, next couple months is very soon here. But I think basically it is very, very important what the government is doing right now in terms of going to the front lines, right, which is the physician, and trying to see to it that problem is mended. You have to start from the bottom, and then, yes, you also have to start from the top as well. But really, if your base is not where it needs to be, that is something that needs to be taken care of. However, and we've seen this in other developing countries, if you are going to be basically, using an American term here, be using the stick in terms of saying to physicians, these type of activities no longer legal, et cetera, and you're not allowed to do that, you have to also present them with an alternative, right? Otherwise, they're going to find not everyone, but some will find other nefarious ways of going back to where they were. So I think that's the part that really needs to be focused on right now is, what is the alternative, right? What are we going to do? What is the first basic step to see to it that we change the culture within our physician group? And yes, certainly you also have to deal with it at a hospital level. But that, I would say, basically is at the heart of the matter right now, if you're talking about something that needs to be done in the very near future.
And Dr. Liu, maybe for your talent, for your doctors, is pay the area where you think this can be resolved, or it's somewhere else?
Well, no, first of all, financial incentive definitely is one of the factors, but I don't think this is the most important factors. For the scholars, the most important thing is for them to be able to use their talents. And using myself as an example, I'm saying I'm a scholar, one of the scholars as well. So if I'm working in a place that I cannot exercise my talents, I was told by somebody who is not in my field to do this, to do that, then I would not be very happy. It does not matter how much you pay me. I would not do this work because, number one, is whatever you're asking me to do may be wrong, or maybe not the best for the patients, or maybe not the best, most efficient way, or maybe it's not very scientific. So for physicians like us, we want to work in an environment that we are able to correctly use our judgment, correctly use our talents. So we want to be respected. So this is number one. Well, number two is, now you respect me, but you do not have a platform. You do not provide me the technology. You do not provide me with a tool that I can use to help people. Then it will be very difficult for me to exercise my talents. Now then we will talk about financial incentives to the doctors in a later part. Of course, that's also one form of the respect to the talents because you value us. But I think financial incentive is not the most important thing.
There are lots of opportunity to work. And for your company, how are you thinking through management, and especially because you have to focus so much on R&D? How do you make sure everything is operating the most efficiently?
Yeah, certainly talents is critical. Especially, you have to give these the scientists the freedom of really thinking out the box in order to really bring up the new ideas. Like I just mentioned a few things we have done in the, where the world leading edge, and there's, completely created from somewhere, right? So you have to give those people the freedom of operating. At the same time, you have to also try to be effectively, testing out those new ideas. And if it's not going anywhere, maybe have to make a call to stop, right? And certainly it's systematic. For us, it's more market-driven. If you want to maintain the talents, I agree with Dr. Liu. It's not just incentive money, compensation. It's whether they have an environment they can do whatever they like to do, and whether you provide them the efficient tools and allow them to really testing out the ideas, whether you have the opportunity for them to collaborate globally in in the expert committee that recognize their work. I think it's important to cover everything. Yeah.
Great. So definitely not just the tech itself or the money, but really creating the environment, the management, all of the systems. Thank you so much for sharing your insight into this very complex topic.
Thank you
very much.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks.
Okay.
You go, I guess.
After you.
好的，再次感谢 Evelyn
I'd like to once again give our gratitude to Evelyn and her panel. It gave us a very informative discussion. And we will continue with our topic on healthcare. And to further this discussion, we will talk about how technology can reshape the healthcare system